idea. Look, look. I miss us too. No, what was funny is backstage I said to Michelle, they're still walking around. She goes, Gail, it's atmosphere. It'll be all right. It's okay. I said, I don't know. It doesn't matter where you flew from. Chances are there were more black people on your flight than any other time. So they showed up. So I flew in from New York, and the flight attendant said to me, do all of you guys know each other? Yeah, right. I said, no. This is called Flying While Black. Right. You're going to Essence, and you're going to see Michelle Obama. That's what I said. There was such camaraderie. There was such camaraderie on the plane. It's a great spirit. But I just want to touch briefly about the book, Becoming. How many have read Becoming? Yes, you have.
Woo! Hey, how are you doing?
Can I just say this, guys? It's in striking distance of 12 million. The best-selling memoir of all time. 31 cities, 8 countries, sold everywhere, translated into how many languages?
Oh, over 40 languages.
Over 40 languages.
Yeah.
People all over the world are reading your book. So you just wrapped up the tour. It was Mother's Day weekend, I remember that, in Atlanta and in Nashville. What did you learn while you were on the tour about yourself? And what did you learn about people that you met that stood up to you?
Well, first of all, I learned that I could work really hard, and I figured that out in my 8 years. But what I learned was that people are really hungry for stories, and stories about people who look and feel like them. And one of the things I want crowds to understand is that wherever I've gone, and I've toured this book all over the world, whether it's in Copenhagen or Paris or London, people have found and recognized themselves in the story of this little black girl who grew up on the south side of Chicago. So what it reminds me is that our stories as black people and as black women have power. You know, the only thing is we don't often get to see ourselves, we don't hear ourselves because we don't get to control the narrative. And I knew that it was important in writing Becoming that I had to sit with the fact that it is understanding how rare it is that a black woman, a modern day woman, gets an opportunity to tell her own story in a way that's going to be read by millions. And that shouldn't be an uncommon thing. But I think because we don't see it often, it's a pleasant shock to the system.
And you hit it when you said it was really relatable, whether you're in Stockholm, whether you're in France, whether you're in London, everybody says they could relate to something in your book. The thing they can't relate to, though, is being First Lady.
Yeah.
Certainly the first black First Lady. Yeah. And I've read the book 3 times. And what struck me, one of my favorite chapters and one of the hardest for you to write was chapter 17, page 215. Because as you alluded to in the tape, the punches really hurt.
Yeah.
The criticism really hurt. And I'm wondering how you got through, because it was vicious, it was mean, it was unkind. I'm wondering how you got through the negativity without bringing you to your knees. How you got through it?
Well, it was important for me to tell that part of my story because I know there are a lot of young kids out there who see me and Barack now, right? They see us as the former first. They see us when we were walking out of the White House, but they don't remember how many punches we took to get there. So now I'm Michelle Obama and beloved, but for a minute there, I was an angry black woman who was emasculating her husband, who was somebody to be feared, because that was part of the political game, was that as I got more popular and started being more of an asset to my husband, it was interesting that that's when people of all sides, and I stopped to say people from all sides, Democrats and Republicans, tried to take me out by the knees. And the best way to do it was to focus on the one thing they knew people were afraid of, was the strength of a black woman. So they...
Yes.
You write about, you said campaigning is like having your soul x-rayed every day and turned inside out. So on those really dark days, I am curious about how you didn't just crumble, why you kept on going, even sometimes when you felt you might not have been supported inside the campaign as well.
Well, there were, as I write in the book, I was at a point where I thought, well, if I'm hurting Barack's campaign, I just need to get off the road. You know, I was like, I'm not in this to not help him.
But he never felt that.
Oh no, he never felt that. Well, that was the beauty of Barack. Barack knew how to take punches. Look, we grew up in Chicago politics, y'all. So, you know, Chicago politics is rough and tumble, but I had never been at the center of it. So at no point did Barack think that he wanted me off the campaign trail. But for a minute, I thought about quitting. But the reason I share that story is because I want people to, especially young people, to know that we all go through those moments where people try to define us before we have an opportunity to find ourselves. And that's exactly what they were trying to do to me, what they tried to do to Barack, because power is it's a corrupting thing. Yeah. And it will make people do some ugly stuff. And we got to see that up close and personal. But I learned from that. You know, so instead of letting it defeat me, I had a very clear vision of what I had to do when I went into the White House as First Lady. I knew that it was up to me, that I wouldn't get the benefit of the doubt. I wouldn't get the benefit of being treated as the gracious, honored First Lady. As I wrote, I would have to earn my grace.
You would have to earn
I
your
knew
grace.
that very clearly, and I knew that I would have to quickly define myself. And I want all young girls out there to know, because we all struggle with that. People of color, working class folks, women of color, where people work to try to define us in a negative way before we get out there and we get a chance to write our own stories. Yeah. And it happened to, yes, me too, Michelle Obama.
Yes, Michelle Obama.
But it is our job to tell our own story. So I knew I had to come in rolling up my sleeves, ready to work. I had to prove that not only was I smart and strategic, but I was going to work harder and faster and better and stronger than any First Lady in history.
And you did.
And I had to be.
And you did.
Yes!
That's why I thought it was interesting in the opening page, the shot of you looking out as the helicopter's taking off. It's like I'm trying to figure out the expression on your face, Mrs. Obama, because you're like swallow, and I don't know if you're going, Felicia, good riddance, or you're going, I'm going to miss you, or on to the next. What were you thinking in that moment? Because you write in the book that on the helicopter, you actually sobbed for 30 minutes.
Well, that's Gail's talking about the very last day after we had to sit through the other inauguration. But I tell the story because that day was so crazy, you know, because
You invited them over for tea.
well, we did that, but you know, there was also the mother moments, right? Because the truth is, on that day, I was moving my children out of the only house they had really grown up in, and I think that gets lost on people. I mean, Malia and Sasha were in 2nd and 5th grade. They spent all of their years in that White House. Yes, a very strange and crazy little house, but that was their home. So while you're transitioning out, the transition happens so quickly. It's like you don't even get to move your furniture out until the new president takes the oath of office. So all of that is happening in one day. And so my kids come and with their little friends and they're like, can we have a sleepover for the last night? And I was like, what? Well, yeah, you know, so the 8 little girls crying the night before, and I'm like, okay, y'all, you can have a sleepover, but you got to get up and get out of this house. And so all of the White House is shut down because it's inauguration. So we get up the next morning, I'm trying to get my hair and makeup done because that's what we have to do. You know? Barack puts on a suit and a tie. Maybe she's ready to tie. He's like, what's taking you so long? I'm like, are you kidding me? So anyway, the girls didn't get up. And I'm dressed. I'm like, get up. You got to get out of here. And they're all crying. They got their teddy bears. And they're moving slow. And I'm just like, you got to get out of this house. And I don't know where these kids are going, but they had to get up out of that house. So you got tears. And I'm pushing It was just such the opposite of what, because during Barack's inauguration, we made sure that the crowd looked like all of America. You know, having the Tuskegee Airmen, having civil rights folks, having folks who had marched, and you know, you could look out at his crowd and you could see America, all of it. And I had to sit in that audience, one of a handful of people of color, and then listen to that speech, and all that I had sort of held on to for 8 years, watching my husband get raked over the coals, feeling like we had to do everything perfectly. You know, no scandal, no, no nothing.
Yes! Woo!
So it was a lot emotionally. So by the time I got on that plane,
It was a release.
it was a release of 8 years of having to try to show up as we all know we have to do. We have to show up not only perfectly, but a little bit better than perfect. Considered equal. And it was the exhaustion
And I wonder,
of 8 years of that.
I wonder if you look back on the 8 years, because I think history will write such a different, they will have a different take on how it's being portrayed in the news now. And I wonder what it's like for you to sit and watch everything that you and President Obama built seemingly being torn down or dismantled simply because the two of you did it. Not because there's a better alternative sometimes, but just because it was an idea of the Obama administration.
You know, people ask me that question all the time, and I can honestly say that our upset isn't over our legacy. You know, we weren't there to instill our legacy. We were there to do a job on behalf of the country. Barack didn't pass health care because we needed health care. He passed health care because millions of Americans didn't have health care. You know, it was never about us. So what it saddens me is what it's doing to the country as a whole. So it's not enough, y'all, for me to be upset. It's like, don't be upset over our legacy. Me and Barack are cool, you know? What we have to be really conscientious of is what kind of country are we leaving for our children and our grandchildren? That's what turns my stomach at night. It has nothing to do with us. You know, because when you're the commander-in-chief of the leader and the leader of the free world, the job is not about you.
Right.
You know, it's not about your feelings, your hurt feelings, your emotions. And that was something I was so proud of Barack. You know, we didn't make the White House about our emotional needs.
Yes.
So what is happening now isn't, you know, the question isn't how do I feel. The question is how do we feel about it, and what are we going to do about it?
So many people take it personally. It's interesting to me that you guys don't. Let's jump to meeting Barack Obama.
Meeting Barack Obama.
Because he did not seemingly make a good impression on you the first meeting.
Well, he was late.
He was late. But did he have that walk back then? Because I'm thinking, if he had that walk, that would be something that would be impressive. He had that walk back then.
He had the walk. But let me tell you, the precursor to meeting Barack, because I was his advisor. So my job was to greet him on the first day in a law firm. But there was all this hype about him, you know, and it was like, you know, this is really smart black young man from Harvard. And, you know, I was thinking, this is a bunch of white people who think the brother is, so I was a little suspicious. I was like, let me be the judge. Because, you know, right, it's like, a brother can talk straight, and people are like, ooh, he's amazing. Because I was picturing what a Barack Obama on paper would look like. So it's like Barack Obama.
Name too,
Barack Obama. You know, I grew up on the south side of Chicago with Robinsons and Smiths and Joneses. I didn't know no Barack Obamas. You know, I didn't know that there were black people in Hawaii. Yes, I was a little ignorant. So I had the impression of Barack Obama. I am Barack Obama from Hawaii. So I thought I was going to be meeting a nerd, an intellectual nerd, right? And then I talked to him on the phone, and he had that Barack Obama voice. He was like, hey, how you doing? And I was